All right, so years ago I wrote this book called 27 by 27. This is a hard copy of the book. Now, before we get into the video, what I do want to say is this is not meant to be any self-promotion. I don't particularly care about selling this book. I like to make books and I like to create content just to help people and give my 2 cents, give my philosophies, so that way people can actually benefit from the things I've experienced, whether positive or negative, so that way they don't have to experience the negative aspects of what I've experienced themselves, and so they can benefit from the positive things that I've experienced without all the hardships that kind of led to the positives. Hopefully that makes sense. So this book, I'm not trying to sell it. It's in the description for free. If I haven't put it in the description, if for whatever reason, if I forgot, leave a comment below and I'll send you a copy of that, or I'll be sure to update the description so that way you can get this for free. If you want to support me, it's on Amazon. But like I mentioned, this is not me trying to sell the book. This is not for promotion. This is just me trying to give the content of this book to you in a format that's more easily digestible. So a little bit of background behind this book. When I wrote this, when I came up with the idea for this book, I think I was about 24, 25-ish. And I had gone through definitely not the worst hardships of life by any means. I've heard people go through crazy stuff. But from my perspective, they were difficult enough. There were a lot of things that I struggled with when it came to finances, when it came to health, when it came to social life. And I got deep into philosophy. And really trying to figure out just the right questions to ask and the best way to go about answering the questions so that way I can improve my life and so that way I can get from point A to point B. If you've seen other videos on this channel, I've talked about this before, but I kind of went through this 7-year, almost a decade-long process of getting kicked out of college twice, kind of experiencing all the ups and downs that come with getting kicked out, that come with being super broke. Like many people talk about college students being broke. I was beyond college student broke. At one point in my life, I almost went bankrupt. I was in massive debt. I had old friends that were threatening me at some point. There was a lot of just different circumstances and situations and just negative aspects of life that I experienced. And to some, it might seem like a negative. To me, I viewed it as a positive because it was a learning experience. And I think that's what life's about. It's about learning and it's about growing. And I had the idea for this book around the age of like 24, 25. I kind of wanted to share all the things I've learned and put it on a book so I can pass it on to my kids one day. And I had this weird, I don't know what it was. It was so strange. I had this like weird thought that at the age of 27, my life would just like go downhill. I don't know where I got this idea from. It's a ridiculous idea. I understand that in hindsight, but it's one of those things where at the time you're just like, oh man, 27 is going to be awful. Oh, this 1 year of my life is going to be terrible. Let me just make sure I have something I can leave behind. That was my thought process. And funny enough, in 2020, I was 27 and that's when COVID hit and people were panicking. There was all this stuff about, you would see on the news, people dying and people being hospitalized, and they at the time would say, oh, if you are at risk of COVID, if you had asthma, if you had all this stuff, you should stay inside because you had a high chance of dying. And of course, for anyone that doesn't know, I have asthma. It's not bad now, but it used to be terrible back when I was a kid. Since being an adult, it's pretty much non-existent. I think I've kind of worked out my asthma enough by physically working out to the point where asthma, like, I forget that I even have asthma. It doesn't affect me at all. But still, at the time, I was like super nervous that something bad was going to happen. And I figured, you know what? I've been procrastinating on writing this book. I'm 27 years old. I thought something bad was going to happen at 27 when I was like 24. COVID's here. Let's write this book and let's just put it out there. Let's take all the information and put it out there. So writing the book too was a great process just because there's something about writing. If you're watching this, I highly recommend you do this yourself. It forces you to kind of sit down and really process your thoughts, your experiences, and articulate them in a way that you hope is consumable, I guess you can put it, to a third party. Like, when you experience something, in your head, you understand it completely. Like, if you go out and you have a certain emotion or if you have a certain feeling, you understand that feeling because you're experiencing it. But imagine trying to explain to someone else how you feel. and you've probably tried this before, it's difficult because you have to kind of speak to that person in a way that they understand. You have to kind of get out of your own head and get into their head to make them understand to the best of your ability the feelings, the emotions, or the experiences that you're feeling or that you felt. So I feel like that's the good thing about writing. It kind of forces you into that headspace and it kind of makes you think about things more frequently. And in a good way too, it's also like a bit of nostalgia. When you start to think about old experiences when you're writing them out, you're almost like reliving them, for better or for worse. I think more often than not, for the better. I think it's difficult to, even if it's a negative experience, I think if you're looking for the positives, you'll find the positives. Yeah, so 27 years old came, I wrote this book. And basically what the entire book's about, it's pretty much 27 lessons that I learned, kind of the most impactful, most important 27 lessons I've learned from, I would say from childhood or adolescence into adulthood, until like my mid-20s. But realistically speaking, we're going to say it's from early teens until the mid-20s. So what I plan on doing, like I mentioned, is over the course of about 28 videos, if you include this one, I want to share those lessons with you. Hopefully, I live up to this commitment and I actually make all 27 or 28 videos. And I'll probably read a bit of stuff from this book as well and kind of just share my thoughts on it. My goal for this, I'm probably not going to get too many views from these videos. I don't see many people on YouTube caring about philosophy or being invested enough in, I guess, my experiences to make to the point where they're willing to stick around long term and watch these all. And to be honest, I don't really care. The goal is not to get tons of views from these. The goal is just to kind of share whatever wisdom or experiences or insights I can share with people who are willing to listen. But yeah, so by the way, I don't have a script. So if I'm all over the place, that's why. I'm just kind of, the other day, I just kind of thought, you know what, I'd make a few videos about this book and some of the lessons I've learned, hoping that people can kind of get some value out of it. So yeah, here we are. But I did want to read some parts of the intro just to kind of get you on the same page of what to expect from this video series. So this is one segment I want to read, just because this is another reason why I wanted to write the book. I feel like one of the many, how do I put this? I think when I was younger, one of the big things that I struggled with a lot is you kind of get this sense that, of course, you're going to die someday. And you wonder, what is life for once you die? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but you kind of think to yourself, once I die, it'd be nice to kind of leave something behind. I guess the best way I can put it is when I was younger, I at times would feel like a ghost. It would almost feel like life is a bit pointless or life is a bit meaningless. And you kind of wonder, once you're no longer around, what was even the point of existing in the first place? Maybe it's a weird concept, I'm not too sure, but that's kind of just the mindset that I had at the time. I would always think to myself, you know, I would like to leave something behind once I'm gone. Something for my kids, of course, something for their kids, but just something to prove to myself that I existed in the first place. I feel like when I look around at a lot of people, many people contribute, and this is not me trying to be insulting, this is just me being observant. Many people seem to contribute so little to society or to the world. And I'm not saying it needs to be something that's profitable or something that needs to like really change the world in some crazy dramatic way. But what I am saying is that a lot of people create nothing. They create nothing at all. They kind of have this routine where they go to work, they come home, they indulge in Netflix or fun activities or drinking, whatever. And it feels as though once they no longer exist on this planet, it'll almost be as if they never existed in the first place. They won't impact anything positively or even negatively to any specific degree. Like, I'll say this is one thing and hopefully you watching this, you won't take this the wrong way. This is one thing I admire about some people who really push the boundaries of life and are almost infamous. It's that willingness or that boldness to do something that makes them so well known, at least you know they existed. Like maybe they've done something horrible, maybe they've done really extreme things, but at least it got them in the history books. At least it made them someone noteworthy. When I was in college, the final major that I landed on was criminology. And one of the theories behind, you see people who are school shooters, for example, one of the theories, it's not proven, but this is just theory, is a school shooter feels as if I'm saying he because it's usually a man or a male, he does not have status and he has no real place in the world. And so what he does is he makes a name for himself by doing something so devastating, so tragic, that people can't help but talk about him. People can't help but remember him. Even if it's for a brief moment, his impact, even though it's negative, is so great that at least you know that he existed. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I'm saying that there's something, I'll call it admirable, about being so willing to do something that at least you're remembered. Most people will never be remembered. Most people are known for nothing. Most people barely even exist. They might as well not exist. And that idea of like living in this reality, but potentially almost not really existing, like leaving the planet one day, making such a little impact that you might as well have never existed in the first place, was like terrifying to me. And I think that's what caused me to want to create things in general. Like right now I'm creating a comic book. I've written several books. I have websites. I just like to create things. I think part of it is the idea of creating something at least increases the chances that your existence will be remembered, or at least it'll be known. Like if you go to a library, someone wrote a book, even if that person hasn't been around for a century, at least it's proof that at one point they did exist. Does that make sense? So that's kind of another reason why I wanted to write this book. And I want to share a quick excerpt to kind of demonstrate or illustrate this point. So the segment, to some extent, this is also the reason why I try to create or do anything. My reason is because I hope to foster a sense of longevity. Some refer to it as legacy, but I almost hesitate to use that word simply because it's a word that's used ad nauseum, almost to the point of redundancy. In a nutshell, I wanted to write a book like this because I want to feel as though I've contributed something to the world even when I'm no longer around. This may sound strange, but one of my fears when I was in high school and college was the idea that I did not exist. I call this ghosting. It's essentially when you're doing so little in life that you might as well not exist. I find that many people go through life not necessarily committing themselves to anything and not leaving an impact or dent in anyone's lives. It's as if they're not really there. I once felt like I was ghosting and not really ingraining myself in the memory of others. I can't speak for everyone, but the thought of this is terrifying to me. It almost creates a sort of existential crisis. So that's kind of what I mean when I say the feeling of not existing. I just truly think that most people, if you were to really take a look at their lives, like if you could just pick a random person from like the ether and read a book about their lives, for most people, it'd be so unremarkable. You'd sit there and wonder, this person had a gift of living, and they've done so little with it besides do what everyone else does. I know that might sound confusing, but I really want to I can't think of a better way to kind of really illustrate that point. So I don't know. That's kind of one of my main motivations for writing this book. I just wanted to at least leave something behind, when I'm no longer around. I guess one final thing I want to say in this video before I kind of wrap up this introduction. In the next video, we'll get to chapter 1 and I'll talk about, the first lesson that I want to share with you. One of the other big reasons why I want to write this book is because at some point you kind of realize that life is not only finite, it's unpredictable. I'm a big believer that time is super valuable. Like, if you know me personally, in my personal life, I hate wasting time. I hate the idea of just doing nothing. A lot of people like to, I get into this discussion a lot with my wife because she's a big lover of the beach and she likes to tan and all that stuff. And I hate the idea of tanning. I hate the idea of going to the beach. I hate just doing mindless nothing. I think the reason is because over the years, I've become so mindful of my time, almost to the point where I can see it. It's almost above my head. I can at all times see how much time's passing. And this is what I recommend people do, not to get into business stuff, but in my company, Productivity Accelerator, I recommend people attach a dollar value to each hour of their time, similar to if you're working at a job. So in my mind, I think of my time as $75 an hour because that's what it is. If someone asks me to do something for an hour and I do not like doing it, in my mind, it's literally like me spending $75. Imagine spending $75 to do something you do not like to do. it stresses you out, I imagine. I hope it does, because it stresses me out. You know, you start to think that way consistently, and you're thinking to yourself, man, time is so valuable, but the thing that makes time the most valuable is that, one, you can't get it back. Two, you don't know how much you have. And I think that second part, not knowing how much you have, is like terrifying. Around the time, like right before I started writing this book, I think Kobe Bryant had just died. For anyone that's not familiar with Kobe Bryant, he was a very famous basketball player, arguably one of the most famous basketball players to have ever existed. And as far as I understand, the story was that him and his daughter, they were traveling somewhere, they got into a helicopter, and the helicopter crashed. I might be missing the details of the story, or I might be misstating the details, but essentially they got into a helicopter and they died from the helicopter. And I thought about that for a while, because Kobe Bryant was arguably one of the most disciplined, most dedicated people that I can think of when it came to his craft, and his craft was basketball. He died at like the age of 40-something, like 41, 42, super young in my personal opinion. Now, was he successful? Sure. Would he leave behind a legacy? Absolutely. Will he be known? Yes, certainly will. Was his life cut short unpredictably? 100%. And while he was successful, and while he will leave stuff behind, when he died, I thought to myself, man, imagine if like COVID, or imagine if tomorrow just some random thing, like something falls on me, or I get into a car accident, or something super random that's unpredictable that you have no control over, takes me out. What have I really accomplished? What have I created in my life? I don't know. That's one of the things that motivated me to write this book as well. And just kind of just be more introspective about life. Just the idea that time is so short and it's unpredictable. You just don't know how much time you have left at all. Like you have no clue. You watching this, myself, you have no clue. His daughter was with him as well, and I don't know how old she was. I think she was like in her teens. She also died. Now, Kobe got to leave something behind. Sadly, she did not. I don't know her name. I don't know anything about her, and I feel like no one will. Her life was effectively meaningless. And I'm not being mean, but I'm just being honest. She's gone now, and she can never get her time back. And I don't know. The idea of that terrified me. So, one more reason why I wrote this book. One more thing I want to read, just to kind of close out this video before I get into the next video. Kind of a statement to illustrate that, to articulate that point a bit better. Sometimes I think as humans, we act as if we're immortal. We make decisions that will come back to haunt us, such as marrying the wrong person. Or we assume things will never change. We act as if there are no consequences, which I feel happens when people don't take time to stay healthy, or if they have kids too early in life. This is reckless behavior. It's helpful to stop and think for a moment and consider the long-term effects of decisions. As far as I know, we only get one life, and then that's it. There's no coming back. There are no game over screens that allow us to insert a quarter for a second chance. This book is essentially me taking things I've learned over the past 27 years and summarizing it for others to read. My goal is to share a perspective, possibly not considered by others, which might allow them to make an optimal long-term decision. So that's kind of just what I want to leave you with in this first video. The reason why I wrote this book, I just want to help people make better long-term decisions. I want to give people insights, maybe some pieces of wisdom that they may have never considered, based on my experiences, whether they're, just based on my experiences. But yeah, if you're interested in reading the full book, by the way, like I mentioned, this is not me trying to sell the book. It's going to be in the description for free as a PDF. You can just read it if you want to. If you do want to support me, there's a link below. It'll lead to the book on Amazon. It's super cheap. I think it's like $20 or less than that. I don't even know at this point. But yeah, this is part one of what I most likely will make into a 28-part series. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, please pass this on to the next person that might also get some value out of this. And until the next video, I'll see you soon. Peace out. Bye.